pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome to the March 6th Board of Public Affairs meeting. First on the agenda is to approve the minutes for the February 20th meeting. You've all been presented with the minutes. There's no additions or corrections.
I move we accept the minutes from the February 20th meeting.
Second.
Karen?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Dick?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
Bob?
Yes.
Next on the agenda is a hearing of public concerns. Seeing none, we'll move on. Item number 3 is a request to advertise for bids for the 2018 69 kV substation breaker and relay replacement. I believe that's for some reason I don't It's there and I'm there. Okay. It's a resolution, actually.
Matt's going to talk a little bit about that.
Okay. This is basically the next phase of our breaker replacement project. We contracted Spectrum Engineering to get our drawings and specifications and bid documents ready to go. They're working on them, and what this resolution is, we want to go out and submit bids to the contractors for the actual removal of the old OCB, the installation of the new FS6 breaker, conduit, primary connections, and all the secondary terminations and connections for that. That's what this portion of the project will entail. So I expect to get those back probably the week of March 19th. The packet should be ready for them, and so with your guys' approval, we'll be ready to go right out and get started on the bid process.
And do I understand correctly that the equipment is here?
Not yet.
Not yet?
Not yet.
But it will be here?
The breakers are due to arrive in somewhere in the month of April. They gave us like a 10 to 14 week window on those. So, the relays themselves are, but that's kind of a different, that's not part of this project. This is strictly for the breakers. Okay. The relays were covered under the Spectrum bid. So.
Okay.
Right.
All right.
And Spectrum will be doing the installation and commissioning testing work of those relays. But you're correct, those are here. And so, as Matt mentioned, the board may recall you awarded those equipment bids last year, and that was included in last year's budget. We amended the budget, council approved that, and so it was part of this year's budget then to do the installation work.
It's a long process. We started thinking about this back in 2015, huh?
Yes, yeah, from the study, correct.
Yeah.
That's right.
And then we also had a resolution for this, if you could number and read, please, Laura.
Resolution number 8, 2018, authorizing advertising for bids for the 2018 69 kV substation breaker and relay replacement project.
I will make a motion that we advertise for bids.
Second.
Karen?
Yes.
Dick?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Bob?
Yes.
Next on the agenda will be a request to reclassify a power plant staff member. Matt?
Yeah, this is for Tom Wheeler. Tom's been with us quite a while. He's really been doing a great job. He's basically our technical go-to guy on troubleshooting and any of the electronic parts. So he's definitely has the skill set there, and he has recently completed his substation technician certification program module that allows him to go ahead and move up to the classification of operator 3. So that's what we like to do here.
Sure has come a long way from an electrician, I think.
Yes, he has,
Just
yeah.
on Tom's-
And especially, on the gas turbine operations and the GE, he's got that down to a science now. And
Anybody that can do that.
Yeah, so he's definitely our go-to guy, so he's done a great job.
I'll make a motion, we approve.
Second.
Jim?
Yes.
Karen?
Yes.
Dick?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
Bob?
Yes.
Thank you.
We'll let you do it next time.
Yeah, that's,
Put the date down? I'll just do it when I get to it.
Next on the agenda will be a 2017 operations review. Kevin?
What do I need to do to bring that up there? I'm sorry? Oh. Oh, okay, look at that. Annually, usually a little bit earlier in the year, we conduct or present to the board a year-end review of the previous year. This last month, we had, of course, the presentation from Ed Finnemore at the last meeting, and can't remember what was going on the first meeting there in February, but it seemed like it was going to make for a very lengthy meeting, so we sort of put it off until tonight. But there's a lot of things to go through. I was surprised when I started taking a look back at not only some of the board minutes from last year after I got here, as well as the presentation that the department heads put together for you. Really how much was accomplished in 2017. So we thought we'd just go through this as quickly as we can. I kind of broke it up into the different quarters of the year. First quarter, the BPA authorized on March 7th providing electric service without charge for the new soccer field lights. And of course those went on, I believe, in October, wasn't it? And that was dedicated. So that has been a real success for the community. In March, Director of Utilities Rob Berner resigned. The following meeting, the BPA approved a new 3-year collective bargaining agreement with the IBEW Local 245. And that same day, no relation to those two things, the Bryan Solar Field Transformer Inverter Bank and PLC failed, and that reduced the output of the project for a bit of time there until June. On March 30th, we received the Certificate of Excellence and Reliability from the American Public Power Association. And that was for significantly outperforming the electric industry national average as reported by the Energy Information Administration. And we've talked a little bit about this in some of our meetings last fall and showed you some of the comparisons as far as reliability. But this was a real nice award for us to receive last year from the National Association. I began work here June the 5th of last year. The solar field repairs were completed and the project returned to full production on June 6th. The board may recall that all but $10,000 of that expense was covered by insurance. June 16th, in response to customer concerns as well as the pending completion of the electric cost of service and rate study, the board elected to freeze the power supply cost adjustment. And you may recall that probably since about the beginning of 2016, that had kind of crept up over time to the point that in early 2017, it was over 3 cents per kilowatt hour. So it was pretty significant impact financially for customers. And so I think that was the first step there in trying to help curb that increase and make the change that came a little later with the new rates. In July, we were successful in working with AMP and the Ohio Municipal Electric Association to include the small hydro provision in the Ohio budget bill that will allow all of the Auglaize hydroelectric plant units to be certified for Ohio Renewable Energy credits or certificates. Matt and his staff completed the application and submitted it to the PUCO. It's currently pending before them, but we anticipate approval of that. And typically what the PUCO does is take the date that you submitted the application, which I believe was in December, wasn't it, Matt, as the start date. So the fact that they're taking a while to get this approved for us is not going to necessarily hurt us any. So. And then in August, the BPA adopted the first step of the 3-year electric rate plan. And it was great because it reduced electric costs virtually for everyone. I haven't found someone that saw an increase. There's probably someone out there, but generally our customers experienced a decrease in electric costs. The PSCA was reset to 0 as part of that, and until this month had been running negative ever since that time. So in this month it was 0. So. And it looks like, based on the latest bills that we got, that we'll be generating positively toward that amount going forward. In August, the board authorized Value Tech Solutions to conduct an advanced metering infrastructure feasibility study. The results of that were presented to you at the last meeting, and we're working with Value Tech on a proposal to share with you on moving that forward for your consideration at an upcoming BPA meeting. In October, the board adopted a minimum cash reserve policy. And these were some of the things that we took a look at when formulating that. You may recall there were a couple of different ways that we looked at what that minimum fund balance was, but all of these issues were part of that consideration, and it impacted some other financial changes that the board made a little later in the year, but that was the first step in making that happen. Now, going back to where the board froze that power supply cost adjustment in June, you may recall we kept track of what the actual costs were compared to what was charged in the bills. And those costs exceeded what was charged in the bills by over $168,000. But at its October meeting, the board waived the collection of that. So that was $168,000 that was not collected from customers that under the terms and conditions of the rate schedules could have been collected. So it was a way of, giving back to the community in that way, and everybody that pays an electric bill has that power supply cost adjustment, so all customers benefited by the board's action. At the October 17th meeting, the operations manager position was created, and Dawn Fitzcharles was hired to fill that position effective January 29th of this year. On November 21st, the board modified the existing electric schedule, EDR, the economic development rate. It had been a 1 cent per kilowatt hour discount on new and additional electric load for large power customers. The board increased that to 2.6 cents at that time, and also made some other administrative modifications to the rate schedule. And there's a lot of interest in this in the community. We have one customer that's already participating, another that we anticipate submitting an application within the next week for that. So I think that it's starting to do what the board envisioned with the adoption of the rate last fall. Following the adoption of the minimum cash fund balance policy for the electric fund, on November 21st, the board approved establishment of the Electric Capital Reserve Fund. And what was done at that time was monies that exceeded what the minimum cash fund balance amount was established at were transferred to this reserve fund to help fund capital improvement projects. It's a restricted fund, can only be used for electric capital improvements. $4.5 million was transferred to that fund prior to year end in 2017. On November 21st, the board received the results of the Auglaize Hydroelectric Plant Water Resource Assessment. And what we were attempting to take a look at there with that assessment was what the water resources that exist at the Auglaize Hydroelectric Facility could generate if modern turbine generators and generating equipment were installed there at the site. And the results were pretty encouraging. The board received those results and authorized going the next step to do a cost-benefit analysis. That work is currently underway. We hope before the end of this year to have some solid results to present back to you for your consideration. But the initial results are certainly encouraging. Potential increase of nearly 77% in energy output is possible. In November, the city received notification from the Insurance Services Office that the fire rating for the city had improved from a Class 3 to Class 2, effective March 1st, just a few days ago. And there are approximately 2,500 fire departments in Ohio. There are only 3 fire departments or cities that have a higher ranking than the city of Bryan does now in the state of Ohio. And so that's pretty remarkable. It's one of those things. I think we had been a Class 3 since 1988, if I recall. Quite a long time. And this is important to our community because it does influence insurance costs and ratings for both commercial and residential property in our community. December 20th, the third step of the 5-year water rate plan that was approved by the board in 2015 became effective. And some other things that I think were significant developments in 2017 were developing that methodology for determining appropriate capital improvements funding levels. And the board may recall we went through that a couple of different times, discussing that depreciation expense and the asset service life and replacement cost methodology. And that overall, those guidelines, I think, really helped us with putting together the 2018 budgets and determining what appropriate levels of capital improvements funding were that were included in those budgets. We also had an increased focus on reducing peak demands. It's a significant cost to the community if we fail to manage those peaks. And this year we enlisted the aid of the water treatment plant. Other city departments pitched in to help however they could. Customers voluntarily curtailed load when we asked them to. And those peak shaving efforts are projected to save us $4.5 million this year. Now our power supply cost from AMP is about $12 million projected this year. So it's the difference between $12 million and $16.5 million. And not taking that $4.5 million from our customers here, whether they're residential customers or business customers, is a big deal in a town of this size. It really is anywhere, but it's particularly for a town of our size. So if we weren't successful with those efforts, the cost would have been significantly more next year. On the financial side, I'm pleased to report all 3 utilities showed a positive margin in 2017. On the electric side, the positive margin was nearly $1.5 million. You can see the increase in the fund balance, but recall again that $4.5 million was transferred from this fund into the capital improvement fund. So we didn't want to show it at 9.2, which is where it stood at the end of the year, because we wanted to make sure that there wasn't some misunderstanding that the fund balance had materially declined there. It actually increased as far as the total electric funds. Power supply costs. Again, this is part of what we're talking about with that difference in the amount that the peak shaving saves us. There were a few other things, as you recall. The AEP contract ended and was replaced by the BP remaining requirements contract. There were a couple of other smaller power supply cost contracts that were higher cost that ended at the end of last year. But overall, we're projecting this year that our cost for power supply will be significantly less than what it was last year. And if it turns out the way that we believe it will, it'll be less than it has been for several years. So it's not easy getting it there. It's required a lot of work and effort by lots of different people and the other city departments, our water staff, The power plant staff doing a remarkable job at keeping equipment that the oldest of which, if you don't count the Auglays, dates to 1948, and keeping all of that stuff running very reliably when we need it, because we need to run it generally about 120 hours or less out of the entire year, out of 8,760 hours. So making sure that it is running at full output on those 5 or 6 days that really count for us here is absolutely critical in saving lots of money for our customers. On the water side, you can see the difference there. We posted $272,000 positive margin, and the water fund, I think at the end of last month, was just slightly over $2 million. So that was good. Part of that really was due to the rate change. It wasn't because we've sold more. That's the issue that continues to be, a struggle for us here, is declining sales in the electric and water funds. So whatever we can do to try to reduce expenses, in the electric, the power supply cost is the big piece of it, as we discussed in prior presentations. Power supply cost makes up about 80 or 85% of your total electric utility costs. On the water side, there's not as many readily available ways to reduce that, and so the board had approved that 5-year rate plan, and that's really what has been the difference here, as well as the folks trying to do whatever they can on the operation and maintenance side to keep costs down. And then in the communications department, it posted a $500,000 positive margin. So, that's good news for that department and for the customers. The board may recall we did reduce the cost on the internet for the 8 up to 8 megabit per second speed. And if we get our offering this year with the higher 30 megabit per second speed for residential, we expect that things will continue to be positive in the communications department. And so I think that's all I have. If you have any questions for me on my part of it, I'd be glad to answer them.
It's just been great. I mean, it was a great year last year. I mean, I guess what impresses me the most, and I'm sure the board will concur, is that everything is forward thinking. We're looking, 60 miles down the road, which will make us better in line,
right,
to keep our power supply costs down.
Yeah. I agree. I think a lot of the things that happened in 2017 were foundational things that you are going to build on going forward for years into the future. And a lot of those were not minor things that you did, that you approved. So, it was significant changes, I know, and maybe it wasn't always comfortable to everybody going through all of those things, but I believe that it will help springboard success for the organization and the community in the future. So with that, then I'll turn it over to Jackie Perry.
Thanks, Kyle.
Good evening. Thank you. Wanted to start the evening out by going over some staffing levels. As you're going to hear from the rest of the department heads, their accomplishments for the last 12 months, they have accomplished some phenomenal things with very minimal staffing. So I wanted to share that. We may realize it internally, but externally, I don't know if everybody realizes that. So we have 46 full-time positions at the end of 2017. We had 2 openings, year-end operations manager as well as the power plant operator. We had 10 part-time staff and 1 intern in the engineering department. To start out, we had 3 account clerks with 1 part-time account clerk that came in and worked, and she's still on staff on a part-time on-call basis as we need her. We have 4 people on the administration side, which would be the director of utilities, the operations manager that did start in January of this year, myself, the human resources director, and 1 administrative assistant. In the communications department, we had a total of 14 employees. Most of our part-time people are here. We had 7 part-time. In the communication staff that did the videography and the publishing of all of those, with 1 local programming and production lead that oversees them. We have 2 IT people, 3 communications tech, and then the 1 superintendent, Joe Farrell. In the electric department, we have a total of 13 employees. We have 1 electric superintendent and 1 line worker supervisor. And then we have 6 line workers that work right along with the line worker supervisor. We have 1 customer service that takes care of all of our customer calls in and out, along with the customer service truck of Kevin. We have 2 laborers that do all the meter reading and helping in between meter reading. They help out as they can as a ground crew. We have 1 meter tech and then 1 warehouse operator. In engineering, we have a total of 4 with an engineering supervisor, 2 engineering assistants, and 1 intern. He did leave us at the end of this year, and he's working down in Columbus now. We have 1 maintenance mechanic that takes care of the total fleet. In the power plant, Auglaize hydroelectric plant, we have 9 staff members with 1 power production superintendent, 5 operators there. 1 was open at the end of the year, which we have recently filled with Kevin Douglas. 1 supervisor, and we had 2 part-time staff, and we're down to 1. We just have Bob now down at the Auglaize. In the water department, we have a total of 9 with the water superintendent, and then it's divided out between the distribution and the production and treatment. So we have a supervisor in each department, and then 4 distribution staff and 2 production and treatment staff. So the staffing changes that we saw in the last 12 months, we recruited and hired 5 full-time positions. We had 1 intern. That's also the intern program that we had through DEED. So we were able to recoup, what was it, $2,500, I think, Lori, of his wages through the DEED program through APPA. And then we hired 5 part-time staff. 4 of those were for the communications. We implemented a coordination of services for 2 positions within the city of shared services. One of those was the city engineer. We implemented that and used his PE services versus outsourcing that. It was more cost effective to pick up some of his wages and do that internally. We also picked up some wages for the park maintenance, which is the tree arborist of Court. He is overseeing some of the tree trimming and those programs. We had 7 job reclassifications completed throughout the year. We moved 4 staff to regular employment. We had 3 staff resignations. And overall, at the end, when we were done, we had an addition of 2 new positions, which supported the succession plan that we talked about in 2017. If you recall, by 2027, 46% of our staff will be eligible to retire. So we'll lose some critical skills and knowledge. Through 2017, again, we had the power plant operator and the operations manager's position that we added. And in 18, we are actively recruiting for an engineering assistant. We believe that we'll have somebody within the next 30 days to bring to the board for that. We're getting ready to work on the power production superintendent or assistant for Matt as he chooses to retire here in the near future. A communication supervisor position, something to start getting some of the information that Joe has to share as he's preparing to retire in the next 5 to 7 years. We need another power plant operator and a line worker. Took the time to look and see for the years of service what we had. So for our full-time staff, we have a combined total of 557 years of service. I think that is a great number to share with everybody. The water department has the most at 121 years of service. And the power plant is at the 90. Maintenance has 30, so Kevin has been here for 30 years. 94 years in the line workers, 38 in the engineering, 76 in the other employees that are in the electric field, 55 in our communications, and 53 years of service in our admin and office. So we have a wealth of knowledge here. Wanted to share the injuries by year. In the last 6 years, we have actually had 16 injuries. 6 of those injuries are the result of reading meters. That does not mean that it is the meter readers or the people that do that, but 6 of those are almost 50% of those injuries are a direct result of going out and reading meters, whether that is a dog bite or a hazard in somebody's yard or something like that. So I knew you guys had been discussing that, so I wanted to share that information with you. Want to take a little bit of time to discuss our website. We published 9 stories on our website. We had a total of 1,200 photos that we put into our archive for last year, and online albums, we put 156 of those photos for people to go out and look at. We had 12,338 people visit our website with 20,895 visits to our page. So we had a return rate of 79%. As they were looking, they viewed 43,667 pages. And so you can see that the bill pay was the most at the 35%. After that, they were checking out the internet at 14%, the cable at 5%, and then the employment and the jobs that we had out there was at the 3%. Social media, we are up to 937 likes, which is 330 more from 2016, and I do believe we have hit 1,000 now, correct, Eric? Yes, we have hit 1,000 now. Our top stories, the largest at 65,000 was the Florida Mutual Aid. All the stories with that, we reached 65,000 people. Employment opportunities was great. We had 45,000 hits for that. Peak power alert days, we reached 13,000. When we had the internet DOS attack, we reached 12,000 people explaining that. And the Veterans Day school programs, we were able to reach 6,000. We have 66 followers on Twitter, and we had 220 tweets. We do have Instagram. We're just starting to get that up and running, so we haven't done as much with that. Questions?
I have a comment.
Okay.
I had a couple of people ask me, man, you guys are hiring. What the heck, But I explained to them, correct me if I'm wrong, we have the same amount of employees today as we had in 1997.
I'd have to verify that, but
I believe it was 47, and we had 46.
I would believe that is close.
It's approximately the same, and we added the communications department in the
Correct.
Right.
So
we're doing a lot more with the same amount of people.
Right. And we've just moved people from one department to another.
Correct.
And yeah, I think at one time there was 13 line workers, correct, Al? And today we have 6.
Yep.
And they do the same amount of work.
Great.
Okay.
Thanks, Jackie. How you doing, Joe?
It's fine. Good afternoon. Before I begin, I want to thank the board for the support of our department over the year. I want to thank Lori and the clerk's office for taking care of me in so many ways, and I want to thank all these department heads behind me. Without them, we couldn't do what we did, and we really thank you for that. Starting the year in digital cable, which we offer to our customers as an extra service, we had about 222 digital basic subs. It stays around that number. Most of the time goes up and down just a little bit. And that represents a pretty decent percentage of our customer base, and staying with industry standards, it does. It shows that we had around 130 DVR set tops and about 250 other digital HD set tops. And we've actually issued so many of these, and then through attrition and some going defective, that we've actually sent several off to be repaired now to keep our stock up on that. Last year we added DIY, Discovery Family, FYI, AMC HD on the digital tier. Each time that HITS comes up with new available HD programming at no cost to us, we generally go ahead and place that on the system for our customers, and then we notify them via Facebook or website and other methods to let them know that. Last year, due to a contract issue, we added Olympic and Extended Basic and Olympic HD on the digital tier simultaneously. So people can watch that now, and a lot of reruns of that. On the HFC cable and internet, we continue to pass through the additional broadcast programming at no additional cost to the customers, because there was no rate adjustment in 2017 for any of our services, and we absorbed all those costs. And anytime a television broadcaster puts up another side carrier that we don't charge the customers for, we pass that through unless they instruct us not to do so. The fiber optic projects, we were quite busy. We completed the construction and installation of the fiber for all of the City of Bryan school system. And that project started in 2016. We completed it last summer when we cut over everything out of the old Bryan High School to the new 612 building. And we also completed the North Central School project up in Pioneer because they were doing a totally relocation and addition up there. And in doing so, we removed the fiber totally from the old high school, Washington School, and the old middle school, and also from the old Lincoln School, which was demolished. And we removed all those communications and cut all that around so that they didn't lose connectivity to the school system. We completed the fiber upgrade for Meadowlink and the State Bank on West High Street. Meadowlink vacated the old Direct Link building there next to Sears, and they put a facility outside at their tower, and we ran new fiber to that and cut that over. That, by the way, that location also serves all of the data communications to the All-Glaze Dam. We do that wirelessly, and we have an agreement with them, and they do that graciously to us at no charge to us. And we just give them the connectivity to do that. We also installed new fiber to Potter in Bryan. For those of you like Tom would know, there's a Potter 1 and a Potter 2. And we installed it at both facilities, and we did a big fancy network connection that cross-connects the two facilities so they can do their telephone, data, communications, and computer systems between those two facilities on our network. So we were pretty pleased about that. On the network side, we did a server upgrade for the voicemail software and operations. Basically what we did is we did what we call an ESXi upgrade last year for all the VMware to operate all the storage for our company, basically, and for the city. And then we also started on the Cisco upgrade for the main telephone system, which is our voice server project, which we are still working on. We hope to have that completed at the end of this week, first of next week, totally. It's all basically ready to go. On the video side, we still stayed very busy. The new trailer that you see a picture there of it, we've received so many compliments on that, and it's a very professional setup. Eric and the folks do a very good job of presenting and representing the utility and the public with our video productions. Now, of course, as it says, we do all the Bryan High School sports. Most of them we do the city band, the Jubilee, all the holiday parades. Of course, the BPA Council and school board meetings we're attending tonight is broadcast over our video system. And as I stated earlier, that production trailer replaced the video bus. And then we also purchased the mobile video suites, which you see a picture with Mr. Herman sitting next to it there. And that is a very sophisticated setup. Everything that runs this video department, for the most part, mobile and also for this board meeting and the council meetings, sits in that enclosure. And it sits over at the head end as we speak, producing this meeting. We did a video fiber installation for the optical transmission. What we did is we purchased all that tactical fiber, and we also we've also installed extra fiber into this building to help alleviate any other stress that we would have on this building's connectivity for that purpose. Our future plans is this year is going to be the year that we upgrade the internet in our system, and by the end of the year we should have 30 megabits available to the customers at the end of the year, and we will still continue to offer the 8 megabit package, which will be sufficient for most folks. We are in the process of upgrading the main circuit, as it states there, from our carrier, and we're also doing all of the other equipment additions that we need to do to make this happen. There's a lot of things that need to happen. We're also doing the planning and engineering for relocation and rebuild of the fiber optic plant out at the industrial park off Wilson Street. That is, that's going to be in conjunction with a large power project that we have that we will be relocating transmission, and we will work alongside the electric department to get that done. And we're also looking at the possible additional fibers for the substations. We want to build another fiber ring around the city to the substations to give more for future growth and to give more capacity. And we're continually working on that to see how we work around our make-ready issues and so forth for that. And lastly, we plan to, if we can this year, we would like to get the Bryan Street Hub upgraded, which will be to take all of the existing old fiber connections and panels and cross connects inside that building and then transfer them over to new equipment inside that building, and that will be a big project that we have a lot of planned outages that has to occur for that. Any questions?
Good job, 2017, Joe. Keep up the good work and stay for another 20 years, will you?
Yes. Thank you. Thank you.
I like to first start out, Jackie, with her staffing levels. Sometimes I get caught up in our projects and stuff and forget about, our meter readers that we have that read 9,000 meters every month. Our Lee running around town, with the clerk's office and all the work they do. And they do a great job, and this is daily stuff. It's day in, day out, Lonnie with our warehouse, our receiving, getting our stuff put where it needs to go, inventory. Jay Smith with his meter testing and he does read our large power accounts, so there's a lot of stuff that happens besides these projects that are day-to-day stuff that I'd like to just mention. Get on here, the Ohio Art upgrade project, they purchased a 1500 kVA transformer and had it installed in their plant, which they own. We kind of made provisions for a future connection to their other two 1500s that they have there to be served from one point. So that brings their total capacity over a 200 amp service. So we installed a recloser to protect us from that. So we installed a new recloser. We're feeding their one new 1500 kVA service, and we installed some primary metering for their new line they're putting in down there. So we had a significant part in that project, and I think it's great for the community and for business and everything with Ohio Art. So it's great that they're growing. Town and Country, there we installed a 500 kVA pad mount transformer. We installed about 850 feet of 4-inch pipe and new cable replacement for a 50-year-old transformer that was there, and a replacement. The Bryan Elementary School, this was in conjunction with the high school project and the new revamping of the Bryan Middle School. We replaced a 750 kVA transformer and fed the underground to that transformer from the primary metering off of County Road C or Fountain Grove Drive. So we did upgrade that last year also. The South Lynn Street, South Beach Street conversion project, this was just an overhead to underground conversion that we did, some directional boring and stuff in that part of town. I think it affected about 5 customers there. The Bryan Ford, of course, everybody that lives in Bryan knows that the Ford business is expanded and upgraded their facility. Along with that, we installed a 150 kVA pad mount transformer and provide them with underground service. We were able to alleviate probably around 1,000 feet of overhead 3-phase primary for that project. looks great out there now. I must say, I'm pretty impressed with being able to get a lot of that old stuff down out of the air. The East Village, Phase C, this is the third project out there in East Village. Affected about 21 customers out in that subdivision. This is the final phase for that front older part. You know, there's some old stuff that was put in the 90s that, you know, was a future replacement, but for that older part, that was our last phase of that project. And that went pretty well with directional boring, primary, secondary, conduits and stuff like that. The Weaver subdivision, this is out between Bruce Drive and Town Line Road, High Street area. We did we had some overhead primary in the rear yards and we put it underground, easy access for our line crew to get back there to that. Where it wasn't accessible by a truck, now we can get to it by foot. So that's a good project. That affected about 15 customers in that project. And the community health partners, they expanded and built a new building out on South Portland. And we installed a 225 kVA with a new primary riser behind the Goodwill back there and ran new cable into that transformer, which is an expansion of our system. The YMCA, that was another overhead project. You know, I talk about having, you know, these big overhead transformer banks in town. They're 500 kVA, they're just monstrous. We don't like to have them up there, so this is one place where we thought we could maybe do a joint project with the YMCA and try to get a pad mount installed in there and have a pad mount application and get rid of that overhead and get rid of them big transformers on the poles. So we were able to work out an easement with them and provide a pathway and feed them underground with their new rebuild and expansion that they're doing. So that was a good project for us. And we also worked with phone and cable television to get them underground also to get that pole line out of there. See, Point of Greenfield subdivision, this is out and off of Wesley, no, not Wesley, Markey Drive, Greenfield addition. It's kind of an expansion of that. It's about 9 lots that were expanded. We served that with underground power. Barn Manufacturing, of course, that's another project where we installed a 1500 kVA pad mount and a 300 kVA pad mount. Again, they have an existing 1500 kVA, so they're exceeding that 200 amp max, so we feel that we should install a recloser to protect us from that. So we went ahead and did that and put in new primary metering for that. Balzer Industry out in the industrial park, another big 500 kVA bank. We put a pad mount application in, fed it, bored some 4-inch pipe and took care of that, really cleaned that up. The 900 block of South Allen Street, this was a single phase underground boring. Secondaries affected about 13 customers in that area. The Yangfang project down here on South Union, we bought some primary metering and a recloser for that, set a pole. We're kind of in the midst, this project, I know it's under completed projects, but it's not complete, I must say. We got some poles we need to replace and install there, but we are working towards that. The weather kind of caught up with us and getting the back truck. We needed the back truck to back the holes for the poles, so we all have all that kind of working. And we're going to get out there this year and finalize that and get that done. And then Oberlin out here, Oberlin Recycling, we bored underneath the road out there to upgrade their service out here on County Road 15D. Notable projects, just some projects that we've worked on throughout the year, the Marcus Corridor brush and canopy control. We're having an issue with controlling our brush, and our canopy was growing together on the corridor, which makes it kind of problematic when you're trying to get tree line clearance crews up through that to get to the lines to do the trimming that we need on the lines. So we had a company come in and they did some brush control with a grinder, and they got all that kind of cut back so at least we could access it with our buckets. We improved, running our buckets down there, not getting them hung up on any foliage or anything like that, so it really improved that last year. Marcus Corridor gate replacement, I think we had 5 gates where the old posts were falling down, and we installed some wooden poles and redid some of them just for security. So we got that taken care of. Winslow Drive lighting project, this was a couple people asked for some lighting down on Winslow Drive. They had some walkers out there, so we threw up some lights to kind of help with that. I know in 2018 we're going to do a full-blown project. This was kind of done just to kind of help the people out there walking and giving them a little light to take care of that. But we did do that in 2017. Pole installations, we have our condemned poles, all of anytime we put a new service in, we do a new riser pole, and any, replacements of poles that we have, we total about 106 of them last year. So that's right on track with what we need to do. We figure on replacing 103 poles a year, so we're right on track last year with that. So that was good, kind of number there for us. Touch a Truck event with Bryan City Schools. I know Eric had a big part in that with a couple of our linemen. We took a couple trucks down there, and it was a great turnout, I believe. A good project for us, and the kids like that a lot. Every year with the street department, we do terrace trimming. Last year seemed to be a little more involved than what it normally is. I think we had around 80 trees that we cut with them. So that was a project, a joint project with the city that we do every year. We try to help each other out, and that's one way we can help them. So that was done last year. Street lights on Toy Street. We had some dark areas where pedestrians were crossing, so we added a couple lights there on Toy Street by Ohio Art. We had a lightning strike on our A-stamp transformer, a 1500 kVA that we had to replace, and insurance and everything with that. That was kind of a bigger project for us cost-wise. Rework Barber Parkway pole line. We had 3 poles we had to rework and replace a couple poles down there for that also. Barber Parkway. Secondary pole work on East South Street. This involved about 10 customers, just some overhead secondary and pole replacements down just off East South Street. Pole reinforcements, we had 3 poles reinforced by Osmos. They came in, they're kind of critical areas. They weren't real easy to replace. The pole reinforcements were a viable application to prolong the life of the pole. With the money and stuff that would take to some of these critical poles, we thought it was good to do that. So we did have them reinforce 3 poles in town. So we did that. East Wilson Street is just some security light we put up for some storage units, and the AMP line worker rodeo. JJ Root, Brandon Sufol, and Brad Plummer are our line worker rodeo participants. They do a great job. Last year they got 3rd in the angle shoe change out, 2nd in the tie event, Hurt Man and Underground event, and 1st in the 600 amp switch change out, and they got a 3rd overall journeyman team. So we're proud of them and what they do down there, and they're really into it, and it really brings the group together. As I always say, it's a team building thing. You guys allow us to do that, and we certainly appreciate that. And the stuff that it takes to train and do that, it's time consuming. They do a lot of it in their own time. let's see, the Omega JV4 line clearance and maintenance. We were able to take Chase Brass down on Labor Day this last year, and Bryan, Montpelier, Pioneer, and Edgerton. We had 22 dedicated individuals involved in the project. We had 282 hours, in preparation, job briefing, inspection, and work on the project that we completed to help with the maintenance of the JV4 line. So that was one project that was good to do. We all want reliable power, and everything, and it just takes, sometimes it takes just a little more effort to get out there and do that work, and we did accomplish that, I believe. County Road 12 was a primary extension to a single home out on County Road 12. I think it was around 500 feet underground that we extended our system. The solar light Portland Street and Center project was with the city engineering. We used that as a energy efficiency project, I guess you could say. And we had they had some communication lines that were running kind of on our pole lines that needed to get off of there. This kind of alleviated that problem also, being able to get these solar lights in for the schools. So it was a good project for both of us to do that. And we reworked an oil switch at Field 5 for the Bryan Rec Park last year. Last year, we, talk about the Florida mutual aid request that we had from APPA. We sent Kevin Rao, Brandon Sufel, and Brad Plummer down there. They spent 5 days in Tallahassee, Florida, helping repair that. And then they went on down south to Ocala, Florida, and they spent 9 days down there helping them people. I've heard numbers of 40,000 people out of power, at one time, and these guys were there to help and restore that power. It was a great thing for us to be part of, and we appreciate that opportunity also, and you never know someday when we might need something like that, so it's always good to participate in that kind of thing. The 500 block of North Allen Street, this is up by Powertrain Components. We rebuilt that pole line and we did some banking out there. The Center Street lighting installation at the YMCA and Rec Park entrances there on Center Street were dark, and we had kids crossing, so we did throw up some street lighting to help that situation there. The LED T8 lamp replacement in our electric office and break room out back. We had 104 T8 bulbs, which are 28 watts a piece. We replaced them with 52 LED, excuse me, 11.5 watt bulbs. So we improved, the efficiency of that with plus adding more light output. So it really was a great project, and I believe we have these lights in here now also, which is great. I know a couple of our guys worked at doing the office Christmas light circuits out front to put lighting on the tree, which was really nice during the holidays. And our courthouse lighting, the light stringer installations, we do that every year with the chamber, and kind of every November it's Christmas light time, and that's what we do, go up there and do that. So we've always done that. Best One Tire, we threw up a light or two for their drive entrance to help them out, and we reworked the Spangler Candy recloser pole the day after Thanksgiving during their maintenance shutdown. We redid the bypass switches on the recloser like we're doing our new ones, so we had the opportunity to do that, and we took advantage of it. Cherry Street Substation Hydrovac, this was with the power plant. Our guys ran the vac truck during that installation. That was kind of a good project for us to get used to using the vac truck, and that was quite involved. H Machine overhead to underground conversion, we did a bore there for we've got a transformer on order now to complete that, but that was another overhead to underground conversion that got a large transformer bank out of the air and off the pole line. South Union Street, East Fountain Grove Drive, we installed some lights out there also to improve that area by the Baptist Church. And we did do about a 500-foot 2-inch bore to replace some cable out on Town Line Road that we've had some problems with failure and faults. We did replace that this year also. 2018 projects, we're looking at doing some miscellaneous underground projects in 102 block of North Cherry Street, the Genesis Nursing Home underground directional bore. Right now they have a cable that runs under their building, and we'd like to rectify that problem by redoing that. Starks Meadowbrook Edition, we'd like to do some boring out there, replacing some single phase 40-year-old plus cable. And then the overhead rebuild projects, they come up every now and then where we're rebuilding just overhead line, replacing the poles, the hardware and stuff. And the hospital recloser is putting a recloser on the hospital service on the Baker 2 side of things there. Distribution pole replacements, as I said, we'd like to reach that 103 pole goal that we set for ourselves. The 69 reroute and 12 kV relocation, I think Joe mentioned out in the industrial park. That would be a project that we're looking at doing this year. The 200 block of West Butler Street lighting improvement. These lights will match our Acorn style lights that we do have around the square. We will put, I believe there's 6 lights that will go from Lynn Street to Beach on Butler. That'll really make that area nice and lit pretty nice. So we got that on the books, and we also have our Winslow Drive street light improvement project, with there's 11 lights out on Winslow Drive that we plan on getting started here soon. Are there any questions?
Thanks, Al.
Thank you.
Good evening again here. Kevin, I'm going to talk about the power plant and Allglaze. Kevin touched on our peak shaving. I'm going to kind of break that down a little bit to kind of show you where those numbers came from here. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is the capacity peak shaving, and that's for the Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Maryland, the PJM area. And you can see on the map that's basically us in the East Coast. So the top 5 load periods during the summer, the PJM only counts during the summertime period, is what we use to set that capacity, and that's what PJM looks at. So we have to run to cover every one of those top 5. So, we'll run a little bit in June, we'll get 5 top 5s, and you sit there and wait to see which one gets knocked out for the next time. So we're constantly always on guard to run whenever the load is up there. Just to give you an example, this year, 2 of the top 5s were in June and 3 were in July, and they all happened from 5 to 7 p.m. in the evening on the PJM peak. So the guys are always staying after running those. But this year we did really well. We averaged 29.6 megawatts on the power plant. And that means for all 5 of those, we had all the machines running, peaked out. We didn't miss any of the 5. So your average will get knocked down, if you only hit 4 of the 5. So that was really, really good for us there. And then the Allglaze is counted in that also. Basically, the Allglaze, we kind of got to balance our water. We only have so much water we can use down there, so we try to hold back and catch as many averages as we can. And we were able to get 2.1 megawatts out of Allglaze. The Bryan solar field was back up and running in the summer, so it helped us out at 1.18 megawatt during the 5 events. So that's a total annual capacity savings of over $2.2 million just for the PJM version of that. So that was a really good year for us there. And with the turbines, these happen in the summertime, and as you know, as the temperature goes up, the output of the turbine goes down because the air is less dense. So So those were pretty good numbers. Now the transmission peak happens only for a 1 hour time period, and that's for only AEP area that serves us, and the whole anybody that serves by AEP, and that transmission peak year goes from November of the following year until December, so it runs through the winter also. This year the peak was, or in 2017 the peak was on July 19th, and it happened from 4 to 5 p.m. At the power plant we were running 29.6 megawatts, and that transmission peak alone is a little over $2.5 million just for the power plant portion of that. All Glaze was at 3.1 megawatts during the peak, and that's $270,000 there. And since the peak was in the afternoon and not on a winter day in January, the solar field was up and running for 1.4 megawatts and $121,000 there. So all in all, a really good year for us when we hit everything running and we hit every peak. So we like that. Another portion of it is when we're running for peak, the generators are running, so that's power we don't have to buy. So basically we got a cost avoidance or sales of power in the All Glaze case. So for the year we generated 1.8 or megawatt hours for 149,000 at the power plant. You can see the solar field was $176,000 in sales, and also we were able to sell solar RECs. For every megawatt hour we produce, we create a REC. We sold those for $101,000. And All Glaze ran at, oh, that number is not right. Sorry about that, because we were at over 11 million megawatt hour, or 11,000 megawatt hours there. That was for 2016 number, so missed that one. But that was for $541,000 at All Glaze. And we do have 2 units certified down there, and we were able to sell those RECs for about $1,700. And hopefully, as Kevin talked, we get the rest of the plant certified for those solar RECs. Completed projects at the power plant, the GT1, the #1 gas turbine, we had a lot of trouble with the silica insulation falling off, getting hot spots, causing us some issues. So we were able to strip that all down, and then we had a contractor come in and put the insulating blankets on. That's cooled the unit, the building down, and it makes it real easy to do maintenance in there. We can take those off and on as needed, get in there and do our maintenance. We painted the power plant diesel storage tanks. The guys sandblasted that all, put epoxy primer and a finish coat on there. It looks real nice. And then we worked on the Nordberg to do a diesel evaluation on that. We brought Industrial Diesel Service. They put test monitors on there. We ran the unit for 4 hours under loads and looked at the unit. Mechanically, it looks real good. We had a lot of metering issues and some wiring changes we had to make that we got all corrected, and now we're in that process of getting the design for the diesel oxidation catalyst for this year for that unit. So that's still ongoing and in the works right now. And other completed projects at All Glaze, our big project was the NAP vent installation down there to ventilate the NAP to stop the pulsation issues that we're having down there. That's been a real success through the springtime here. We've had a lot of high water, and that's the time, we get those pulsations. We get a slight pulsation. There's a few tweaks we want to do yet, but all in all, it's been a good project. And then we did the floodgate support repairs. That sounds scarier than it is. The support beams were basically the lifting mechanism, not holding the gates in place or anything like that. There's no possibility of those failing or anything, but those support beams were anchored in the concrete, and as the temperature changes, they get expansion and contraction cause the concrete to fracture. So we had a contractor come in and fix the one end in the pier and put the other end on a UHMW bearing so it can go move back and forth. And it's moved up to a 1/4 inch, in the cold weather. We went out and watched, and it's shrunk a 1/4 inch. So now we got that movement without the concrete breaking, so it's been a big help. Then we had a bearing failure on Unit 2 down at All Glaze, and we were able to replace that with a phenolic bearing. We're going to try a phenolic material down there and see how well that bearing runs on those. So we got that completed. And then 2018 projects coming up. You know, you approved the substation breaker one tonight. We're going to get working on that, and plus the transmission relays. We're going to complete that project. We're looking at the Daggett substation to find what our best options project is going to entail in that. We're still getting some evaluations on that to see what we want to do. And the Nordberg diesel oxidation catalyst installation, we can hope we can move forward with that project once we get figured out what the engine will take. Right now we've got concerns on back pressure on that engine, whether the catalyst is going to put too much back pressure and the engine won't operate correctly. So we're still in that process of figuring that out. And then, as Kevin touched on, that down at All Blaze with MHW Stantec doing the new turbine generator cost analysis. They're going out to the contractors now and getting actual information from the actual manufacturers of the hydro units to see what's available down there at All Blaze. So that's it. Any questions there?
On the Nordberg,
Yes.
other than the emissions equipment that we're looking at, is there any other upgrades can be done? Because that's a pretty old piece of equipment. Is there any other upgrades can be done to that?
The machine actually, we did, crankshaft deflections and everything, and the unit's in really good mechanical shape. Yeah, it is. It's a good machine, and the whole issues there is the Nordberg runs with a very cool exhaust compared to like these like the JV2 Caterpillar diesels run really hot. And that the catalyst needs a higher temperature, so we're right on the edge of that. So we're trying to do a balancing act, trying to get something that'll work on the catalyst side. So, but as far as the engine, no, it's in good shape.
And well maintained.
Yeah, it's a good machine.
Is that engine older than you?
A little bit.
Okay.
Yeah. Thanks a million, Matt.
Okay.
Save the best for last.
Everybody's still awake? Last year, a couple small main projects, not near as much main as we need to be putting in the ground, but we were able to accomplish some, at least. 100 block of East South Street, if you remember, was in conjunction with the city street improvement. Couple more blocks are planned for this year as part of this bid we just opened Friday. And 200 block North Lewis Street was done by our own in-house crews. Both of those were old 8-inch cast or 4-inch cast, depending on what part of the street you're talking about, that had given us problems over the years. We contracted with Aqualine leak detection firm to come in and survey the entire distribution system again. We ought to be doing that every 3 to 5 years. They always find stuff that never comes to surface. If it comes to surface, of course, we would find it a little easier, but they spent a couple of weeks listening to access points. I believe over 3,000 access points were listened to with high-tech listening devices. 24 leaks were found. We were right on those, getting those repaired as soon as time would allow. Also, throughout the year, we documented 41 other leaks. 18 of those were mainline leaks, 18 service lines, and 5 service saddles. Some of the service saddles that are vintage 1960s and 70s are failing, particularly those galvanized service saddles that were popular in those days. We upgraded 25 water services. What I mean by an upgrade is if we have to change the pit because it's broke, or the valves broke, or it's an old style access, or leak. So we tear that completely out, so that make a new connection, a lot of times from the main up to the meter, and then rehook the customer side. That's all. Those would be included in the 25 upgraded water services. Additionally, we had 12 new water tap applications We replaced 9 mainline valves. That would be anything from a 4-inch through a 12-inch, just as part of a valve replacement program. As we do our valve operations, we identify at that time, usually we find a valve that doesn't work or the nut broke off, the operating nut or something of that feature, and we typically always budget money to have valves on the shelf ready to go in and do those replacements. 4 new fire hydrants were installed last year, and we worked on 16 other hydrants to bring them back up to good working order. And again, that's what we find from hydrant inspection and flushing every spring. If we find problems, we get right on them and get them rebuilt and back to working order. We did work at 3 different wells. We had a check valve there in well 1. There's a picture there in the top right. When those check valves are kind of important when you're not using that well. It keeps the other wells from dumping back down into a well that's not being used at the time. Well 2, we worked on the SCADA system. And well 7, we tore completely apart, and it was due for a cleaning and a pump rehab and motor rehab, and also replaced 2 valves at that well house. We just got that back online a week or so ago. That was an all-winter job. We flow tested all 7 wells to determine specific capacity, gallons per minute per drawdown, per foot of drawdown, and that kind of gives us an idea on the health of the wells and helps identify potential issues and lets us know which well might need maintenance and when. At the water plant, we replaced some of the controls that had shown some age and some failure rates. The auto dialer on the chlorine leak detection system. If we do have a gaseous chlorine leak, the auto dialer is the lost my train of thought. The auto dialer dials the hazmat crew first and then alerts water personnel. Added a pressure or replaced the old pressure transducer and chart recorder, and the continuous chlorine analyzer, which is on the bottom right, just lets us know the concentration of the chlorine in the water as it leaves the plant at a glance. So we, instead of just having to take we still do our daily tests as required, but this monitor lets us know at a glance if there's any change going on. Been a handy unit to have. And we did some battery backup replacement there on the SCADA system. Every year we're required to update the contingency operating plan. It was this past year, though, it was more of a major update. There was a lot of revision to the rules of how the EPA wanted to see things laid out in that plan. We were required, as all public water systems were required, to create a lead service map of your entire water system and map out areas that are known to be served by lead service lines, areas that are potentially served by lead service lines. That's hanging on the wall in engineering. It's also an electronic form. We did our lead and copper sampling this past year. This says triennial. There's some major changes coming up to the lead and copper rule. We are going to have to do that again this year and probably every year, just because of some changes to the lead rule from some of the things that's happened in other towns in the past couple of years. It may well affect our Walnut Street project that we got planned for this year as far as having some new regulations we have to do. We'll get through them, but we just may have some additional work to do with this water line installation project. Well, in fact, both of them this summer. They're still finalizing the rules. We We're in contact with EPA today and hope to have a call back tomorrow to get some questions answered. So as it stands right now, we assume we're going to have some new rules to follow when we replace a lead service line, or when we work on a lead service line, or transfer, do any kind of repairs to one. Last year we were required to manganese testing of all the raw water and the finished water. The good news for that is after a year of doing that, the EPA said we don't have to do any more, so we did it for a year. We met all the criteria they wanted to see and relieved us of having to do that just in a couple weeks ago. We pumped 492 million gallons of water. We analyzed 502 lab samples, and that looks like a repeat of last year on the lab samples. Last year, they gave me a count of 502 lab samples as well. Just worked out that way. Pumpage was down a little bit, if I remember right. The laboratory and the lab analysts get tested every 3 years. Last year was time for a recertification. We're very fortunate to have our own state certified lab. We do those 500 samples that they do. Some of those are brought from outside, or a good portion of those are brought to us from outside customers. We plan to take down the Bryan water tower, as far as empty it, not take it down, but take it out of service and do an interior inspection and washout this year. As you know, we've just opened bids for the 300 to 900 blocks of South Walnut and 200 and 300 blocks of East South Street. The bids came in very good. We hope to maybe call a meeting here next week and hopefully award those so we can proceed with the project and the loan application and all that. And our crews are planning on doing the 600 to 800 block of West Bryan. And we are also mandated to create an asset management plan. The draft rules are out and available to us. The final rule is not, but the final deadline is October 1st for creating an asset management plan for our water system. And so we're all kind of focused on prepping for that, gathering data. A lot of this stuff, a lot of the data we already have. Our GIS system is going to be very helpful, but there's still a lot to do with identifying your assets and how you're going to take care of your assets, and your maintenance process, your budgetary process. They want to make sure all those community water systems are taking care of the system, and also have document that we take care of the system, and also have funding available to take care of the system. So in a nutshell, that's kind of what the asset management plan is. A little more to it than that, but I think that's pretty well in a nutshell. Well, 5, rehabilitation may or may not happen. It was listed as the bottom, as the next potential one after we did the flow test last year. We probably will do flow tests again this year sometime and revisit that, and to see which well might need attention first. We already sat through a course in backflow prevention recertification. 4 of us renewed our certification a couple of weeks ago. It was an 8-hour class. We hosted it here on site. We plan to replace a truck or a van at the water plant and red sand filter cleaning. This would be the year, I believe it's been 5 years now. This would be the normal year to do that. And also we're looking at doing the water supply and treatment master plan this year. Questions?
Good job. Thanks, man.
Yeah.
Lot of stuff.
Yeah. I'd like to speak up and say, as I've said before, and I really mean it, the dedication that the superintendents, supervisors, workers, under Kevin's leadership, it's just incredible. It makes my job easier than it could be. But it's just the way you guys work together to get it done. I really appreciate it. Thanks. That's enough for me. So we had a great year, 2017. Like Kevin said, we built a foundation to move forward. It's all good.
Exciting stuff.
Next on the agenda, pay the bills.
I move we pay the bills.
Second.
Tom?
Yes.
Dick?
Yes.
Karen?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Yes.
Next on the agenda is comments from BPA and staff. Mr. Iyer.
Very impressive, what you guys presented here for 2017. More impressive, looking forward to seeing 2018 and being part of it.
Notice Mr. Salisbury didn't call anyone.
I know, and I appreciate that.
Go ahead.
No, I mean, where would we be without our supervisors, our department heads, and our employees? I mean, that's what it's all about.
Sure.
That's what makes this job a lot easier than it could be.
Mhm.
Yeah, everybody did a great job.
Yes, I agree. Everybody did a good job last year. And Matt, I have a question for you. Looking at the energy production at the Auglaiche, recognize that?
Yes. Not pretty, is it?
Yeah. What happened halfway through the month?
Where the entries and then the stoppages, it's this time of year in the spring, we get all the leaves and the debris coming down. So it's overnight, and every morning we're just slammed with debris. And the only way we can get it out of there is just shut down long enough to let that pressure off to get it cleaned out. So
I wondered.
That's what those shutdowns were, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Any logs this year?
Oh, yeah, lots of logs. And actually, the logs don't hurt us. It's the leaves and the corn stubble and the grasses and stuff that comes out of all the cornfields, this time of year. If you ever see a spot where it's been flooded, you get that big matty looking stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's just horrible. It just plugs right up, so.
All right.
But that's the reason for those spikes.
Okay.
I just want to say the 2017 looked like we were very, very busy. Looks like we're going to be busy in 2018. We've done some studies on some ways to improve some of our facilities, and I think we're moving forward on those. It's going to be exciting to see how those things pan out. But I'm just happy to see that we're just getting ahead of the game on a lot of these projects. So good job, everybody.
Again, thank you for the hard work you do. I don't know what else to say. I just appreciate it. It means a lot to me, so. Other than that, Kevin?
Just wanted to remind the board, the WEDCO annual meeting is Thursday at 11 o'clock. If anyone wants to ride with any of us, we'll probably be leaving here about 10:30. Welcome to join us or to drive up there yourselves. We wanted to discuss perhaps rescheduling the March 20th regular meeting to next week, either the 13th or the 15th. The reason for that is that in order to get on the time schedule and complete the time schedule that we're on with the Ohio Water Development Authority, the board will need to award the bid for the water main project, South Walnut Street and East South Street water main project, so that it can go to council on the 19th to get their approval for the board to borrow those funds. And so we'd like to do that, depending upon when your schedules would permit, either next Tuesday or Thursday, and just reschedule the meeting from the 20th, so we would not be having a regular board meeting on March the 20th. So do you have a preference?
I'm flexible. I'm open.
Thursday.
The 15th? You want to do that at the normal time, 5 o'clock?
5 o'clock, is that okay with you?
We have committee meetings that afternoon, so we could go earlier if you prefer. But,
You want to do, can we do them after the committee meeting, or?
well, that's up to you folks, Bob and Karen.
That would be better with me to do that.
You want to just-
After committee meeting?
You want to just set it for 3 o'clock or 3:30, something like that?
Yeah, sure.
Would that work?
15th and 3:30.
So 3 p.m. on Thursday, March the 15th?
I need a motion on that.
To reschedule the regular meeting. Thank you, Barb.
So we're going to reschedule the meeting from the 20th to the 15th. I move that we do that, reschedule the meeting from the 20th to the 15th at 3 p.m.
Yeah, second.
Tom?
Yes.
Dick?
Yes.
Karen?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Bob?
Yes.
And that was all I had for you this evening.
Okay. Mayor?
Yes, it was a great time last week in Washington DC. I appreciated Kevin and Don and Karen keeping me up to speed with everything that we needed. I obviously liked that part of the gig, meeting with all of the congressmen, senators, and just learning a lot of information about public power. That's something that I admittedly didn't pay a ton of attention to unless I needed to on council. So I also appreciate all of your annual reviews. You all did a wonderful job. I love continuing to once in a while get an education, and tonight was one of those nights, so thank you.
And you got an opportunity to lobby for us.
I did, and I enjoyed
Which
it
is
very
great.
much.
Yeah.
Yes, and I would also like to add, last night at the council meeting, we did approve your agreement to pursue the OWBA loan without any issue, so we'll keep working with you guys on that process as you need us.
Thank you. Laura?
No, sir.
Department heads. Dawn. HR. Council. Max, come on, you gotta have something to say. That's good, huh? Okay, great. And with that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion, we adjourn.
I'll second.
Jim?
Yes.
Bob?
Yes.
Dick?
Yes.
Um,
Tom?
Yes.
Karen?
Yes.
Meeting adjourned.
My first one in.